This is Bloomberg UTV.
This is Talkback. I'm Hindol Sengupta. We are back for what has almost become an annual ritual. Delighted to welcome on the show once again former Finance Minister Yashwant Sinha. Yashwant Sinha, thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.
I want to begin by asking you. India Inc. says they're happy. Middle class people like me say we'll get a little more money every year, so we are happy. Some agrarian economists are saying more money will probably go to agriculture, so they're not at least unhappy. Why is the opposition unhappy?
Who is this budget meant for? Out of a population of 120 crore people in our country, the number of income taxpayers like you and me is limited to 4 crore. That means 116 crore are not going to benefit from the income tax concessions that the finance minister has given. In economic terms, if you are looking at the purchasing power of the people, then it is going to contribute, let's say, about 26,000 crore in a $1 trillion economy, which is neither here nor there. So you might end up buying a swanky new car, which has become incidentally more expensive, or a television set, which also has become more expensive. But, think of the remaining 116 crore people. And they are going to suffer because this budget is clearly inflationary. And in a situation where inflation appears to have emerged as the most important economic issue, apart from being a political issue, this naturally disappoints the Bharatiya Janata Party and perhaps the entire opposition.
Let me then come to the point that you're mentioning. You're saying, according to you, in your assessment, essentially this budget will trigger greater inflation. Are you saying it across the board? Do you also feel that one of the biggest crises, all surveys suggest that the biggest crisis in the common man's mind today is food price inflation? Are you suggesting that the budgetary mechanisms pointed out by the finance minister in this budget will actually heighten those concerns?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm saying it without any doubt in my mind, with a little smattering of economics that I know, that if you raise the prices of production goods, then prices will go up across the board through the so-called cascading effect. Diesel is one such commodity. Now, if diesel prices have been raised, then it is going to have an impact across the board. If fertilizer prices have been raised, it's going to have a cross-the-board impact on the entire agricultural sector. If you have raised by 2 percentage points excise duties, then it's going to have impact across the board. Now, therefore, I am unable to buy the theory trotted out by the government yesterday that it is going to be limited to only 0.4% as far as WPI is concerned. You talked about food inflation, and food inflation is bound to go up. They have imposed a service tax on railways. Now, what are the railways going to do? What is everybody else going to do? Just pass it on to the consumer. So, transportation is going to become more expensive. It's going to have impact on agriculture. It is going to have an impact on industry. There will hardly be any sector of the economy which will not be impacted upon adversely because of this price rise. And then talking in purely non-political economic terms, I personally believe, and many other people believe, including incidentally the finance minister, because he has said that in his budget speech last year, that what drives the Indian economy is domestic demand and domestic savings. This is what has been responsible for the so-called Indian miracle. Now, if domestic demand is impacted upon adversely as a result of price rise, you and I will not go to the market and start buying things only because we have money in our pocket. We will look at prices also. So, if prices are high, then that is a huge disincentive to buying.
Let me then come to the petroleum product price increase. Many people, and especially the opposition, is united on the fuel price and opposing the fuel price hike. But it is true, isn't it? And across the board, people agree that the fuel pricing in this country has been flawed for many, many years. And subsidies which are given in fuel and including in LPG sometimes don't reach the people they're intended for. Finally, you and I pay less for LPG and we can afford to pay a couple of ₹100 more for the gas that we buy, or maybe even the fuel that we buy. It doesn't reach the people it's intended for. Why is then a sort of correction in that entire mechanism a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing at all. I am all for that correction. If they take away the LPG subsidy from people like you and me, I'm not going to walk out of Lok Sabha. But, that brings us to the question of targeting, proper targeting of subsidies. That has not happened in a long time in our country. And we have just gone on increasing the subsidy bill. Everyone recognizes that subsidizing some elements in the economy is a necessity in a developing country like India. Nobody will quarrel with that. But proper targeting of subsidies is the issue which we have failed to tackle so far. Now, I have 3-4 important points to make with regard to the petroleum price hike. We have had the Kirit Parikh report.
That's right.
Before that, you will recall that with effect from 1st April 2002, when we were in office, we had deregulated petroleum prices, except for kerosene and LPG.
If I remember correctly, in the Vajpayee years, 9 times the fuel price increased, right? Because you had
including
right.
on many occasions, yes, increase in LPG prices and kerosene
That's
prices.
Correct, yes.
So we did bite the bullet. It was not that we avoided biting the bullet. Now, what is my objection to what Pranab Mukherjee has done?
Right.
He has completely ignored, or let's even say put in the cold storage, the Kirit Parikh report. So the deregulation of petroleum sector has not taken place, is not likely to take place. What he has done is he has restored the tariffs on petroleum imports and domestic production, and that has led to this increase. That's now, right. When the government is controlling prices, then what happens? You think in terms of cross-subsidizing the various products. And petrol has always subsidized all the others. And that is why a differential in the increase in petroleum and diesel prices has often happened when you control prices. Now, this time, because you have revised duties, therefore it's across the board, almost exactly the same in petrol and diesel. Now, petrol will not have a multiplier effect to the extent to which, or cascading effect to which diesel will have. I would have said, one, that we should have taken note of the Kirit Parikh report and acted on it. We should have undone the damage that the UPA government did in May 2004. The second, that we should have maintained the differential and the cross-subsidy principle between petrol and diesel. And 3, that it was not necessary to do it in the budget. I mean, why did he do it in the budget? They could have done it 15 days ago. They could have done it 15 days later. They could have waited for parliament session to be over, But he has done it. And then if you look at it, the fourth objection that I have is, what is the signal, what is the message that the finance minister is sending out of this budget? You can't tom-tom your achievements in certain areas and then hit the people exactly in those areas.